this is the X-ray. What do you think? This black and white photograph, what it is used for? How those many diseases are diagnosed with the help of this X-ray? It plays a very important role. This X-ray plays a very important role in the domain of medical sciences. A lot of our diagnosis, the diagnosis that we do on a daily basis, are based on these X-ray screenings. There's defects of bones, intestine, kidney, lungs, many other organs. We can detect them by the help of this black and white photograph. It is just black and white, but in the depth of these two colors, this black color and this white color, lies the immense knowledge of anatomy. The eye sees what the mind knows. My dad used to quote these statements, and it completely fits about X-rays. My name is SAAD, and let's start this wonderful topic of X-rays without wasting any time. Let's dive in. So, in the concept of X-ray, the more we learn X-ray, the more we get to know about them. Okay? Knowledge of anatomy plays a very important role reading X-ray. Like here in this X-ray, generally we see ribs. Okay, these are ribs. This is clavicle. This is vertebra. A general person having a knowledge of general anatomy can be able to detect these things. Okay, but can you see this heart here? The spinous processes of the vertebrae. The bronchial division. This. So these are the details, and there are a lot of details that we can see through this X-ray, and we can learn or read a lot of things about this person. Like this is the arc of aorta. So there are a lot of things that we can read from this X-ray. So now let's start from what are X-rays is, then we will study the further things. X-rays are simply electromagnetic rays. If you have the knowledge of physics, so the electromagnetic rays are the rays formed by the electronic movement and the magnetic movement, or rather electric movement and magnetic movement. So these two movements are perpendicular to each other. Okay, the electrical movement will be in the x direction and the magnetic movement in the y direction. So these two movements of the rays coincide with each other and gets in one direction, so becomes electromagnetic ray or wave. Wave and rays can be alternatively used. So X-rays are the electromagnetic rays. So there is a large spectrum under which there lies different kind of rays. Okay, there is a large spectrum, and it all depends on the frequency and the wavelength. Okay, so in this spectrum there is a little area under which the visible spectrum lies. The blue color, the green and yellow, orange, red, the complete VIBGYOR, this comes under the visible spectrum, and following it and back to it there are many kind of rays that we cannot see but they exist. Okay, so increasing the frequency, or I will say decreasing the wavelength here, decreasing the wavelength or increasing the frequency, we will find the X-rays having the wavelength of 10 to the power minus 11 to 10 to the power minus 8. Okay, or it is called nanometers. So the X-rays are here when we increase the frequency and come left to the visible spectrum. Okay, just after the ultraviolet rays, X-rays comes, and if we increase the frequency more, we will find the gamma rays. Okay, so increasing and decreasing the frequency, the rays that are there, they are harmful to the body some extent. Okay, so gamma rays are very much harmful, X-rays are less than that, UVs are also harmful but less than that. IR means infrared rays are also harmful. These are harmful because they affect the biological cells. Visible spectrum is not harmful. So how these X-rays were discovered? These X-rays were accidentally discovered. There was no dedicated experiment done to discover X-ray, but they were discovered accidentally by this Nobel person, Mr. Wilhelm Conrad Roentgen. He was the person doing some experiment. He was doing an experiment actually just to study the flow of current in space. Okay, in a vacuum in space. He was transmitting potential differences and accidentally discovered some rays that were fluorescent in nature getting emitted from this apparatus. Okay, it was emitted from this apparatus. To avoid these rays, he put a black film. Okay, just to avoid these rays in his experiment. But in spite of putting this black film, these rays were not stopped. Okay, they were getting penetrated from this black film. So Roentgen called these rays unknown rays, later called X-rays. X means unknown. Okay, so this person, Mr. Roentgen, later got a Nobel Prize in 1895, and it was the first Nobel Prize in the domain of physics. This Nobel person, Roentgen, got it, and he was the discoverer of X-ray. And the first X-ray was of his wife's hand. So it is a palm. He is wearing this ring, and this is the world's first X-ray done. So let's go through the components that we require to produce the X-rays. What are the components that we need to produce X-rays? So to produce an X-ray, in the unit of X-ray production, we need a high voltage current, a high potential difference at a very high potential. Why so? Because at high potential difference, the electrons that will move will be at high frequency. So we have to produce, let me show you this, we have to produce a high frequency from the visible length to produce a X-ray. So to produce that, we need a higher potential of 1000 to 5000. In between this, we need a cathode and an anode. The cathode is made up of tungsten filament. A filament will be here made up of tungsten. A molybdenum plate, the anode will be of molybdenum plate. Okay, this will be anode, cathode. So the anode is connected through a copper rod, and this copper rod is connected to a cooling structure, cooling setup. Okay, and this complete thing is under vacuum. This diagram is getting very messy, so let me show you the real diagram here. A very neat and clean one. So high potential will be at the anode and the cathode. These will be connected to a very high potential 1000 k volt of battery or any supply. The cathode here, the cathode is having a filament inside it made up of tungsten. The anode is made up of molybdenum, not tungsten. It is of molybdenum. It may be of tungsten. You can take tungsten, you can take molybdenum. Both are very costly metals, but both are having very high, this molybdenum and the tungsten, both are having very high melting point. That's why they are used, because this complete setup will going to get heat. We are providing it a very high potential, it will heat up fast. So to avoid that, at the points where the experiment is being taking place, we have to avoid these all messy things. That's why we use tungsten molybdenum here. Okay, here we can use copper, and we will connect that copper to a cooling system. Electron beam will be formed. Densities of X-rays. So basically there are three densities. Let me read it first. Depending upon the degree of absorption of the X-rays through the body structure, there are three densities formed by the X-rays. So this is the X-ray film. It is having a dark color, bright color, dark color, gray color, By dark I mean black, and by light I mean white. Okay, so how these color will be formed, it totally depends on the amount of X-rays that structure absorbs. Okay, for example, so from here the X-rays are being emitted, and here we have a structure. Okay, we have this thing, arbitrary thing, and this is a screen on which we will capture the X-rays. Okay, photographic film. So when we release the X-rays, this structure, if for say this structure is a very dense structure, it absorbs all the X-rays and don't allow to pass. Okay, so no X-ray will pass through this structure. Now at the end of this structure there is a soft dense structure. Okay, the end of this structure is a soft and will allow the X-rays to pass partially. Okay, so the X-ray that will pass through this structure will partially pass and partially will be absorbed. Okay, now coming to the third situation. Now the X-ray is passing and is passed through a structure that don't absorb X-rays, and it allows the complete X-ray to pass through it. So completely passed. So these are the densities. This structure will be shown on the X-ray film as white because there will be no X-rays striking the film, and opposite to that, this structure, the allowing structure that was allowing the X-rays to pass, will strike the film and will be shown black. So just to understand it very clearly, there are three densities. Let me rub it. There are three densities. Okay, and the color of that densities will be black, gray and white. Black and white and all the colors between it, the shades of gray. The black on the X-ray will be for air, the least absorbing structure, the least X-ray absorbing structure. The white will be for bone, the hard structure, the most X-ray absorbing structure, and gray for soft tissue. Soft tissue can be muscle, can be tendon, can be connective tissue. Okay, can be any soft things, can be organs. Okay, so in this X-ray, these white parts, these solid white parts, these white parts, these are bones. These are white. They have not allowed the X-rays to pass through them and strike the film, and they have absorbed the complete X-rays. On the opposite, this black structure, related to the anatomy, it will be lung. Same about this. These will be lungs. They are capturing the air in it, and the air is allowing the complete X-ray to pass through it, and hence black here. Okay, and third, the gray, the shades of gray. The shades of gray are here. You can see this heart. So this heart is grayish in color. It is showing you the outlines. It is heart. It is gray. The another grays. Here it is gray. Here it is gray. Sternocleidomastoid muscle. There will be a muscle. Okay, like this. The surface, on the surface you will see it will be skin. Skin is also soft tissue. Okay, so these three densities will tell you all about what the structure you are seeing in the X-ray. It depends all on the practice. So we will practice it now. So let us take example of this X-ray. So we will practice X-ray. Okay, and when you practice X-ray, you try to read X-ray, relate it with the anatomy of that structure, that body part. You will understand the X-ray more and more. Okay, so here it is X-ray of knee. Okay, let us name the parts. it is femur. This is tibia. It is fibula. It is patella. Okay, all the structures that I have named right now. What are these structures? These are bones. That's why they are white in color, right? Now coming to the parts of gray, shades of gray. These are the shades of gray. These are the shades of gray. Okay, so what muscle? It will be a soft tissue, and here it will be a muscle. These are the posterior compartment muscles. Muscles of thigh. It will be the anterior compartment muscles. You can name them. They will be quadriceps, femoris. It will be a tendon, right? You know, tendon will be also a soft tissue. Tendon, patellae. Okay, this muscle will be gastrocnemius muscle. Okay, you're getting it. Now what will be black? Black here, ear is black, ear is black. Okay, now come to another example of X-ray. Now again I'm repeating this statement, or rather I will say a quotation that my father used to say. He was a product of AIMS Delhi. He has studied radiology there and loved that subject. So I found this quotation on his radiology book. The eye sees what the mind knows. So the more we know about the X-rays, about the anatomy, about what is there, what is being reflected, what is being shown on the X-ray film, the more we will get to know about the X-rays. If you take this film to a layman and ask them, tell about these structures, most they can tell you about what it is. Like he or she can say it is a head, or if they were very smart, they will say these are teeth, not more than that. But you, being a learned person, your mind knows more. You can understand more about this film. From this film, you can say this is occiput, there will be eyes here. Okay, this is the foramen for eye. These are the spinous processes of vertebra, the vertebral column. Here the vertebra, here the spine will be passing. Okay, it is hyoid bone. This is the apex, this is the edge of mandible. Okay, these structures, if you find passing, these are shades of gray, and you can relate. These are like veins, right? So these are the vessels, and many more things you can relate if you know more. So your eye sees what your mind knows about anything that you are seeing. It's all about imagination. So, and coming back to the principle, the densities, relate that structure with the density of that particular structure, the heaviness, the softness, the airfulness of that structure, and you will get to know what it is. Let's take this example. So it is a femur. How femur? Relate it with the image of the femur that you have in your anatomy book, right? This is the lesser tubercle. This is the head of femur, the greater trochanter. It is not trochanter, tubercle, it is trochanter. The shaft. Okay, this complete structure is looking like femur. The thigh area, this is a muscle. These are many muscles. You can see the linings passing. There are many muscles here, there are muscles here. So what is the defect here? You can see it, alright? There is a fracture. We use the sign of hash for fracture. It is a fracture of shaft of femur. Any other defect? Generally, if we see, there is no other defect. What else we see here is this. This is not a defect. The structure we see here is This is pubis. Okay, here is the foramen, obturator, foramen. Now coming to this is the X-ray of forearm. Okay, this is the wrist, hands, the forearm. Okay, the elbow. I'm not writing it, it will take time. This is radius. It is white, a bone. Okay, this is ulna, white bone. Okay, these are bones. These will be muscles. Gray in color, it will be air. Okay, so here you see that ulna is fractured. Okay, fracture of ulna, and specifically the shaft of ulna is fractured. So you have to relate the anatomy that you see in the X-ray with the default anatomy, and then you find the anatomical errors. Okay, they're called the pathologies. Here it is hand and it is foot. Now coming to hand, these are the phalanges, these are the metacarpals, these are the carpals, ulna and radius. So which hand it is, left or right? If I say that it is taken, this image is taken from the anterior palmar side, in that case relate it with your hand. See both your hands from the palmar side. In which hand the radius is lateral? In the left hand, right? So this is left hand X-ray. Okay, so these are the methods. You will find your own methods to do all these things, but repeatedly learning and reading the X-ray will improve you in it. This is gray flesh. Okay, this is the defect in this X-ray. Metacarpal is fractured at the level of shaft. These are the carpals you see. Okay, one thing you see extra here is this bone. Which kind of bone it is? What is the name of this bone? If you don't know, see my lecture on the bones. It will be in my playlist. You will get to know. It is a sesamoid bone. Sesamoid bone is a type of bone. It is not considered under the 206 bones of our body. It is extra bone developed here. Okay, so learn about bones also. This is the X-ray of foot. This is tibia. This is fibula. These are the metacarpals. These are the phalanges. This, not this. This both are one. These are the phalanges. These are the tarsals. These will be not carpals. These will be metatarsus. So what is the defect here? We have gone through the general anatomy structures. Now finding the defects. Yes, this fracture you are finding here. It is the fracture of lower head of fibula, and generally what it is called, it is the malleolus, right? Malleolus. Okay, the condylar ends. It is lateral malleolus, the fracture of lateral malleolus. One other defect is there. If you see very minutely, the medial malleolus is also fractured. This. Any other defect? Go through it. Pause the video and go through it. No, there is no other defect. Now coming to this last X-ray. This is pelvis. These are the lumbar vertebrae. Okay, this is head of femur. Relate it with the anatomy. So this X-ray is taken from the anterior side, of the abdomen, including with pelvis. Okay, this is the part of body whose X-ray is being taken. So in this X-ray, just pause the video and find the defect, disease that you can detect from this X-ray. Just first go through the anatomical structures and then find the defect. It will be hard for you, but you practice it. So many of you would have not found any fracture. You must be finding any fracture, right? There is no fracture here. If you are thinking that this is a fracture, no. It is a joint. So it is a sacroiliac joint. How? This is the sacrum bone. I'm outlining it. This is the sacrum bone and it is the ilium of pubis. So this joint is a sacroiliac joint. Let me change the color. This joint is a sacroiliac joint. It is not a fracture. This is also not a fracture. It is a pubic joint, pubic symphysis. So what is the defect here? What is the disease here? This. Renal calculi. Yes, we can find the renal calculi, the distinct renal calculi from the X-rays. So there is many possibilities. There are many possibilities. There are many things that many defects that we can find from the X-ray. The more you practice, the more you learn. So here the topic ends. Thank you very much for being till now. This lecture takes a lot of hard work to prepare, so I request you to like and subscribe my channel for further lectures. My name is Muhammad Saad. Thank you.